So, welcome everyone. So, we were on page 365, a synthesis of yoga, the release from the ego. And maybe we can take from beginning this paragraph. Yeah, would anyone want to read?
Yeah, should I read if nobody is reading? Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Such possession is not indeed the aim of the traditional yoga of knowledge, whose object is rather to get away from the above and the below and the all into the indefinable absolute. I'll read that again. Such possession is not indeed the aim of the traditional yoga of knowledge, whose object is rather to get away from the above and the below and the all into the indefinable, absolute. But whatever the aim, the path of knowledge must lead to one first result, an absolute quietude. For unless the old action of nature in us be entirely quieted, it is difficult, if not impossible, to found either any true soul status or any divine activity. Our nature acts on a basis of confusion and restless compulsion to action. The divine acts freely out of a fathomless calm. Into that abyss of tranquility, we must plunge and become that. If we are to annul the hold of this lower nature upon the soul. Therefore, the universalized jiva first ascends into the silence. It becomes vast, tranquil, actionless. What action takes place, whether of body and these organs or any working whatever, the jiva sees but does not take part in, authorize, or in any way associate itself with it. There is action, but no personal actor, no bondage, no responsibility. If personal action is needed, then the jiva has to keep or recover what has been called the form of the ego, a sort of mental image of an I, that is the knower, devotee, servant, or instrument, but an image only and not a reality.
Yeah, thank you. So, we had, I think, started reflecting upon it, but it's beautiful to go over it again. Yeah, anything here? Anyone wants to share if something is coming right now? One thing, yeah, Taru, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying that the more one sees the chatter, I mean, the chatter is there all the time, and the more one is aware of it, like initially, one feels like जैसे ignorance is bliss, right? कि जब दिखता ही नहीं था कि it was going on, and you would not know it's going on. So that felt peaceful. That had a false perception that there is quietude and nothing is happening. And once become aware of this, like sometimes it's very frustrating, right? Like, and this thing is so clear that, I mean, there's like an open field which can just be empty. Like it can just have, the, I don't know, the space, and yet without the need, it feels like I'm just forcing things into it, analyzing, decreasing, judging, planning. I mean, it seems so useless. And especially, when I have a headache or I'm not well, when I have to see that chatter, then so it becomes like, am I crazy? Am I crazy? So, I mean, this thing comes at such a, I don't know, like, I mean, I really needed to hear this, that because I keep feeling that how is this possible that with so much this thing, the movements and all, which keeps going to the background, right? It's not that you're all the time there, and yet, जैसे हिंदी में word है ना व्यर्थ, it all seems like so much activity, so much action, so much movement, which is not leading anywhere. It's just there, unnecessary nothingness, which occupies me, which is maybe the purpose is just to keep me occupied so that I don't get, I don't know, not going
Yeah.
there, but it's so great that beyond it, it will have to be
Hmm.
quietened. It will
Hmm.
have to be quietened.
Hmm.
Is cannot stress that enough. Just,
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. I think everything has a place, as we say in evolution. So these patterns had a place. The repetitive mechanical patterns, they had a place, but now, as if the time is over. Their time is over. There comes a verse by Shanti Deva where he says, "1,000 lives you have pestered me, going round and round in circles, but this time I'm not going to listen to your dictates. You have no chance." Something like that. Some haughty insolence, something was there. I had shared many times on groups. Yeah. And one thing which comes to me is, now that we notice that it is there and one needs to be more and more quiet, and I think more and more, if I continue to just see that, oh my God, so much of chatter, oh my God, so much of chatter, that also is a chatter. So there has to come a time that this also ends. Like I'm not like startled, oh my God, there is a chatter going on. So startle, इसमें startle होने की जरूरत नहीं है, like a fact, okay, there's chatter, and you don't even comment on it. You stop commenting on it. So I think that also has to come. Yeah, please go ahead. You wanted to share?
I don't know. I want to share, but I don't make any movement, and still, I want to share. It's been happening. I don't know how this is happening. Yeah, I was saying that yesterday, when I was in this thing, I opened up Savitri, and the line that came was that, she had, like, when I was observing the chatter, I realized that a lot of it was just about here and there, right? Like something, somebody, some circumstance, some future, past, and all. And the line was that she must save herself and save the world, like, as in herself first, like. And when I look at that chatter, and the reason why it solidifies that it's so unnecessary is because all is outside chatter, right? Like the things that I cannot do anything about. I mean, I can remove myself from the situation, but staying there with that chatter, chatter, chatter is not serving anybody. So again, like you said, that this also is a chatter, that there is chatter, do something. So again, that movement towards that offering towards, yeah, I don't know what to do with it, just And I can see how beautiful that clear thing would be when I'm not there saying that they chatter or not. I'm not there to see it. Is really, I feel, I mean, yeah, thanks.
Something like, I think mother shares, which really is very practically visible in our lives, कि कुछ लोग होते हैं वो लोग दूसरे लोगों को जो बहुत शोर मचा रहे हैं ऐसे चुप कराते हैं कि ओए बहुत शोर मचा रहा है चुप कर so this is added on to that shore, and we think that we are doing something which is superior. So I remember mother had shared somewhere that there are some people who want to slow down the chatter, but they are themselves shouting. And I find myself, that often we are there, especially with kids, if they are making too much of noise. What's the difference? Yeah, so just chatter onto chatter, that gets added on. Yeah, Anjali ji, are you saying something?
No.
Huh.
I was just listening.
Yeah, if you want to share, you can go ahead.
With my experience, what I was thinking that the more self-awareness increases and the cleansing of the vital, you are able to solve the chattering is less. So sometimes it happens that, as you said, that mechanical mind is quite active. Then we need not to pay attention towards mechanical mind. Yes, you सुबह उठो और कोई कोई लाइन गाने की ऐसी होती है जो वो चल रही है, तो पहले आई यूज टू बी वेरी कॉन्शियस अबाउट मैकेनिकल माइंड है, व्हेन आई लेफ्ट इट दैट मैकेनिकल माइंड है, ठीक है, then offering and remembering, then I observed that quite a chattering is decreased quite a lot, but still yes,
Yeah.
association is there. आपने कोई चीज देखी और वो देखते वो जो माइंड का एसोसिएशन है, अब वो चैटर की जो क्वालिटी है वो डिफरेंट हो गई है। अब वाइटल की चैटरिंग उतनी नहीं है जितनी मैकेनिकल माइंड और एसोसिएटिव जो थॉट्स हैं उनकी चैटरिंग ज्यादा है।
True, very true. I think they lose strength if we don't engage with them.
Yes.
So they may be there in the background, but I'm not engaging into them. I know that they are there.
Yes.
है ना, and this Sri Aurobindo says it stays on for a long time. तो अब हमको आदत हो जानी चाहिए इसके साथ जीने की, भैया ये तो रहेगा, मुझे इसको प्लीज
नहीं प्लीज गो ऑन, आई हैव टू इंप्रूव माय
what I was sharing is that I don't have to wait for that chatter to stop so that I can pick up something which is worthwhile in my life to do. वो उसका वेट करोगे तो बस पूरा जीवन निकल जाएगा और वो चुप नहीं होगा,
एकदम,
है ना। तो वो जो हम
recently what I observed is that you can stop also, you can reject that this chattering is there. The moment mind starts chattering, you can ask stop, because then you divert your attention from that chattering, that matter, and differently.
And also parallelly giving ourselves something higher to do all the time, because that really helps.
Exactly.
Yeah, learning some skill, improvisation on reading, doing some physical work, anything, that helps.
Yes.
Yeah.
One thing more I found is helpful is that day when you started concentrating above the head, descent of peace. So the more we do that, call peace, like mother also says that whenever mind starts chattering, then you can simply say peace. So you invoke peace, and it also helps in reducing this mind chattering.
Absolutely. It's like, as if a paperweight has been kept on the flying papers. I have felt often like that, So, and mother talks about a solid piece descending.
Right.
Solid, like a block of ice. So, and we have
that I have not been able to experience.
We can visualize, this we can visualize, especially at times, people have this experience at the samadhi also. Many people that such a strong, like solid, active piece is there that you can't help but being overwhelmed by it at times, not with everyone. Yeah. So ऐसा लगता है कि वो अब आपके पास ऑप्शन नहीं है कि वो पेपर वेट ना हो आपके ऊपर, कहीं उड़ के भाग नहीं सकते आप, वो पेपर वेट पड़ गया है अब एक चॉइसलेसनेस में यू आर देयर. It can happen. I'm not sharing that it's like a general, of course, experiences are different. And often, again, to each his own, many ways could be there. Like I've often experienced, like if mother's foot on my head or on my heart, there also I feel like something solid is with me, which is taking care of that flying
Wonderful,
papers.
wonderful, wonderful. Can also
And
that.
may not work with everyone, है ना, but वही है जिसके साथ जो
हाँ,
काम करे,
हाँ. But
या मेरे साथ खुद ही ये काम करना बंद हो जाए जो मैंने बोल दिया तो उसके भी चांसेस बहुत ज्यादा हैं. या प्लीज गो अहेड.
I I also feel that like on this chattering, some observation that I've been making from last few days is that my consciousness is not an integral whole, like how we would you like to see it. It's very fragmented, and I feel peace in different parts of it. For example, there will be chatter in one part, we'll be chattering a lot, and we have our own storylines which just keep going. Um, and but there is now which wasn't there before, a small part of the being that doesn't want to engage in it. It's like that's there, that's watching it, and it says, and it doesn't want to engage in it, but at the same time that part is also there which is chattering. So it's not like an integral whole, it's like fragmented. And it's a beautiful realization, because I don't want to stop the chatter, because that's again it's an effort to put, oh, I want to stop the chatter. But like as you say, to keep watching, to keep looking at it, like maybe that part which is watching, or that part which knows that, no, even if you're there, doesn't matter, is there, let it overpower it. So I mean, that was something really interesting, that a part of me stops engaging in those thoughts, in those storylines, and as a result there's no physical manifestation of that stress. Like earlier, I remember I used to get so overwhelmed that I used to have anxiety, so much anxiety, I was not able to sleep, or in my stomach there was a lot of tightness, and it used to cause diarrhea to me, like and I know why it's causing, because now those thoughts have overwhelmed me so much that it's my body is manifesting it. But surprisingly now, because there is a space by the grace that has been there, um, even the chatter is there, I still get stressed sometimes, but at least the physical manifestation stops, because if I'm not able to sleep, I can just chant mother's name, or Om Anandmai Chaitanmai, and it just dissolves. So that's something that came to me when we were talking, that how we are fragmented into different parts in our consciousness.
Yeah. So I think all of us resonate. That's what we were sharing. Our nature acts on a basis of confusion and restless compulsion to action. मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि अगर एक्ट नहीं करेंगे तो शांत बैठ सकते हैं, वो हमारे पास ऑप्शन नहीं होती है ना. जैसे एक बार एक सेशन में हम बात कर रहे थे दैट if some person is saying something, do I have the option? We actually don't have the option not to react. So can we develop that option? We can. That's our destiny. We have to, है ना. So चाहे आप बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट ही काम क्यों ना कर रहे हो, चाहे वो आप कर रहे हैं या नहीं कर रहे हैं, वो आपकी सेंस ऑफ सेल्फ से एसोसिएटेड नहीं है. इट्स नॉट एडिंग ऑन टू यू, एंड इफ यू डोंट डू दैट एक्शन, नथिंग इज सब्सट्रैक्टेड फ्रॉम यू. Then we can do actions non-stickily, and whether whatever, and for the sake of doing it correctly, for the sake of doing it nicely, rather than doing it because it gives me my sense of self, and so that's why I can't give it to other person, because it takes away then my sense of self. How could that person do it? Many a times it happens, we may not realize, we may be playing a role in our home of in for families or workplaces. And only when it is taken away from us, that role, then we realize how sticky we were to that role. Before that, we may say that, oh, I am very detached person, I live like a Jivan Mukta. But the moment it is taken away, as if कि हमें लगता है कि नहीं, ये क्या छिन गया. So that we have to cultivate. As slowly we grow in our consciousness, it can be cultivated. It actually comes naturally. When we work on ourselves and we live from a higher uplifted state of consciousness, not the ego consciousness, then why would you do things for the sake of giving you sense of self-importance? You can't do that because you are getting that importance from somewhere else. तो कोई जरूरत ही नहीं है. अच्छा, काम मिला तो ठीक है ना, काम नहीं मिला तो ठीक है. So what he was sharing in the next few couple of lines, this: our nature acts on a basis of confusion and restless compulsion to action. मतलब कि करना ही करना है, अगर नहीं किया तो पता नहीं क्या हो जाएगा, So it can be anywhere, workplace, family, it could be anywhere, this stickiness. The divine acts freely out of a fathomless calm. मतलब हम एक्चुअली परमात्मा बन के घूमते रहते हैं, और परमात्मा तो अपना बैठा है अपना शांति से, उसको कोई टेंशन नहीं है. हमको बड़ी टेंशन है कि देखो, अगर मैं नहीं हूंगा तो इस बच्चे का क्या होगा, मैं नहीं हूंगा तो यहाँ का क्या होगा, है ना. So the divine acts freely out of a fathomless calm. Into that, so this is our destiny, this is what we have to do. It's not just for the divine, we are all divine, we have to do that. Into that abyss of tranquility, we must plunge and become that, if we are to annul the hold of this lower nature upon the soul. Very important. Maybe not for everyone, but to whom it resonates. I find it very, very important. So to keep ourselves rooted in that higher consciousness, in the depths of, the best possible consciousness we can have access to, root ourselves there, we must plunge and become that, if we are to annul the hold of this lower nature upon the soul. तो अगर ईगो के साथ झगड़ा करते रहोगे तो कुछ नहीं मिलेगा. वो भी बेचारी खाली हाथ बैठी है, मैं भी खाली हाथ बैठी हूँ. तो ईगो के साथ फाइट का कोई, हाउ कैन वी फाइट अ मिराज? वी कांट. वो कहीं जा नहीं रही और मेरी एनर्जी बस ड्रेन होती रहेगी. वो कहीं नहीं जाने वाली. So to come to terms with it, that okay, let us stay together happily ever after. You are allowed to stay as long as you want, but I have work to do. So you go up, climb the stairs, and then later on bring the light which transforms the poor fellow. तो हमको रहना ही नहीं है, ब्रेन लॉस्ट कॉन्शियसनेस में हमें नहीं रहना है. And these things actually, again, for each thing there is a time. We cannot talk these things to people who are right now becoming aware of their emotions. कि अच्छा, मेरी भावनाएं भी हैं, मेरी फीलिंग्स भी हैं. ओ, मैंने तो कभी ओन ही नहीं किया ना. तो जो ये सब काम कर चुके हैं थोड़ा बहुत, उनसे ये कहा जा सकता है कि भैया कितना एक ही फ्लोर पे बैठ के लड़ाई करते रहोगे, उठो, है ना. लेकिन अभी जिसने लड़ाई शुरू भी नहीं करी उसको आप नहीं कह सकते ये. तो थोड़ा लड़ना झगड़ना जरूरी है, ईगो के साथ थोड़ी टसल जरूरी है, थोड़ा ओनरशिप जरूरी है कि भैया ये कौन रह रहा है मेरे घर में, ये तो मेरा घर है, तू कहाँ से आ गई. सो वो थोड़ा बहुत वो जरूरी है, बट एक्सेसिव नहीं ले जा सकते उसको, बिकॉज उसका कोई अंत नहीं है. वो भी अनंत है, जिस तरह डिवाइन अनंत है, वो टसल भी अनंत है. साधो तब तक भय करे जब तक पिंजर में सांस. तुम लगे रहो, कहीं नहीं जा रही हो. So this is what we have to do. We have to plunge into that abyss of tranquility. We all have experience of that. We have to root ourselves there. And this is what I believe it means by, Ashwatha tree, which they say is ulta, roots are above and niche uski manifestation. So we have to root ourselves in the higher consciousness, not in the earthly realm. The earth पे सब कुछ change, everything is fleeting. The best job I may get work in ashram, everything is fleeting today. आज है, कल नहीं है. किस चीज पे मैं अपनी शांति किस पे रूट कर रही हूँ, है ना? सो वी रूट अवर सेल्व्स इन द इंटेंजिबल, द हायर, सो दैट द मैनिफेस्टेशन हैपन्स इन द लोअर, यू नो। वो हमें, हमारा सोर्स वो है, नोइंगली वी बिकम दैट, तब खिलता है, जैसे यू नो नीचे जो भी लगने हैं उसमें फ्रूट्स, फ्लावर्स, लीव्स, because it is nurtured by now the eternal which nothing can shake, nothing. अब हमारा क्या होता है, हमारा रूट्स नीचे रहती हैं और ऊपर हम कोशिश करते हैं कि फूल भी उगाएं, प्लांट्स भी उगाएं, मतलब जो भी चाहिए, है ना, फ्लावर्स, फ्रूट्स, जूसी जूसी लीव्स, वो बेचारी उगती नहीं है भैया, नर्चर ही नहीं है, नर्चर ही गलत जगह से मिल रहा है, दलदल से नर्चर मिल रहा है, तो नहीं मिल पा रहा ना, वहां से नर्चर पूरा नहीं हो पाता, शेकी है, ग्राउंड इज शेकी, है ना। 2 दिन जिससे नर्चर मिला, वो 5वां दिन वो बंदे की प्रायोरिटी बदल गई, वो चला गया, है ना। और इसको फिर हम डिप्रेशन का नाम देते हैं कि भाई ये मेरे साथ क्या हो गया, यू नो, जिसको मैंने सोचा था आई कैन बैंक अपॉन दैट पर्सन, ही इज गॉन, वेयर इज ही गॉन, who is my source now of water, soil and everything, है ना, who will nurture me, this is what we usually, है ना, again there are layers to everything, but we, crux of the matter, we name this depression when we disconnect from our higher source. And then a new life begins, you know, when you root yourself at the right place. Then अब फलते भी हैं, फूलते भी हैं, क्योंकि अब तो कोई चिंता की बात ही नहीं है, चिंता चिता समान है, चिंता क्यों करें अब। Into that abyss of tranquility we must plunge, जिन खो जातिन पाइयां गहरे पानी पैठ, मैं बपुरा बूढ़न डरा रहा किनारे बैठ। तो हम डरते रहें कि कब हम तैयार होंगे, कब हम तैयार होंगे, हम कभी भी तैयार नहीं होंगे, हमको अपने आप को चैलेंज देना पड़ेगा। We will make mistakes, we have to make mistakes. In the name of not making mistakes, if I keep sitting on the side, nobody ever learned any skill, even material skill, by that, कोने में बैठ के। नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है, मतलब there are exceptions. Eklavya, I think, learned like that, कोने में बैठ के, but he was vigilant, you know, he was learning, he was not passive there. Yeah, so anything?
Now, when you were talking about the plunge, you know how there's some research on this, and people do it, that when a child is maybe a year old, they take them into the pool, there's an instructor, and they just leave them, like not leave them, but they are there, and the child knows how to surface. And when I have to learn to swim, I have to take coaching lessons, and I have to learn, okay, floating, this, and yet inherently, without reasoning, the body knows how to surface, how to float. I mean, it's quite miraculous if you see that happening live. I had gone somewhere where I saw that. It feels like, oh, what are you doing, right? So this reasoning, you know, right? This, that if I jump, where it will be, where it will lead me, and I do it for everything, right? I'm so used to covering my bases that for everything I have to have, okay, you know, some covering, something. Okay, this is my layer of protection. This is my backup option. This is my backup option. So it's, and there is a plunge that one can take without any backup and rise straight. So again and again and again, we are seeing this, right? Like in so many sharings and all, to, yeah.
I think there was a story which I had read, a true story in some book. Maybe it was Telepsychics by Joseph Murphy. It may be, I don't know. So this guy, there was a grandfather. I had shared this story, and he was handicapped. He was on a wheelchair for a long time, many years. And there was a this hurricane or whatever that comes in the US, that was coming. There was the warning there, and he had two little children who could not run by themselves, sleeping in the upper, and now they have to go to the basement now that the hurricane is coming. So he really, really wanted to save the kids, and he did not know, what do I do? What do I do? There's no one home. And they say that, of course, I've just read it, but it appears that it's a true story that they share it that way, that he was able to get up from that chair and walk and carry the children in his arms towards the basement. So, what you were sharing, we give ourselves so much of backup plans that we are never able to truly find the strength which is lying within us, sleeping. इतने बैकअप प्लान्स देते हैं हम अपने आप को. अरे मत मौका तो दो, मौका तो दो ना. वो अपने अपने साथ हम कर पाते हैं, ना वो बच्चों के साथ कर पाते हैं. वो तो भला हो बच्चों का कि जब वो छोटे होते हैं और चलना सीख रहे होते हैं, है ना, कि तब वो गिरते पड़ते जो भी है ना, उसमें ज्यादा, उसमें भी हमने देखा है, अगर उसमें ज्यादा आप इंटरफेयर करो तो बच्चे चल नहीं पाते, चलना डिले हो सकता है. जैसे गिरने लगा बच्चा, ओ गिर गया गिर गया, but child has to go through that, है ना. And that's why village people are so rustic. बड़े वाले जो 2 साल बड़े बच्चे होते हैं, वो छोटों को गोदी में उठा के घूम रहे होते हैं माँ की तरह, है ना, ज्यादा बड़ा नहीं है. और one thing which is so amazing is that now, again, close to our apartments where we live, there are roads, and of course roads are mostly at peak hours full of traffic. Now there is a government school also on that road. The school which we belong to, people are coming, leaving the kids at the gate, बिल्कुल गेट तक छोड़ के, हाथ पकड़ के वहां तक जा रहे हैं. जो गवर्नमेंट स्कूल वाले बच्चे हैं, आउट ऑफ कंपल्शन एंड नेसेसिटी, they have learned to navigate the way through so much of traffic, and not only by themselves, sometimes on the cycle also they know how to navigate between the traffic, and not only alone, just one person at one time, they know how to take care of the other one also. How did they learn that? कैसे, है ना. वो नेसेसिटी कहते हैं इज द मदर ऑफ इन्वेंशन. कि उनके मतलब माँ बाप के पास समय ही नहीं है, वो डेली मजदूरी करें कि तुम्हें छोड़ने जाए स्कूल, शुक्र करो कि स्कूल मिल गया है, तो जाओ फिर अपने आप, है ना. और वो अपने आप, वो लंगर, यहाँ पे गुरुद्वारा है, तो वहां से लंगर चाय वाय लेता हुआ है, खाते खाते वो जाते हैं स्कूल, अपने आप सब कुछ. दे डोंट हैव एनी अदर ऑप्शन, while we have so many options, and we have to look after our kids when till they are 15 तक भी उनको छोड़ने का मन नहीं करता, तब भी करता है कि भाई सामने ही तो है, हम भी छोड़ाते हैं, क्यों जाए बच्चा अकेला. सो ये काफी गहरा इशू है, दैट वी डोंट गिव अवर सेल्फ रिस्क एनफ. और फिर हम वंडर करते रहते हैं, नॉट फीलिंग वर्दी अबाउट अवर सेल्फ, है ना. तो अभी मौका तो मिले अपनी कुछ, है ना, स्ट्रेंथ फाइंड आउट करने का, उसको एक्सप्रेस करने का, वो मौका ही नहीं देते अपने आप को. And grace is working. I mean, how do you think all these people who are crossing the roads without their parents, they are alive every day? कौन है जो उनको देख रहा है? कुछ तो होगा ना. And today, even मतलब, in our apartments, little kids are cycling, no parent is watching, and yet they are getting home आराम से. कौन है जो देख रहा है? कोई तो है ना हमारे अलावा.
You said कि हम सोचते हैं कि कैसे भेज दें उसको अकेला, राइट, अकेला, अलोन. तो बिकॉज आई कीप फीलिंग आई एम अलोन, राइट, आई हैव दिस फॉल्स परसेप्शन कि मैं अपने ही पैरों पे खड़ी हूँ, अपने ही हाथों की कमाई खा रही हूँ, अपना ही वो कर रही हूँ. So then the only thing I can inculcate is that he's alone, she's alone. Like if I am not present to the strength, the source that I have. Till then, I would not be able to give that presence and grace that is always there through me and around me. I will not be able to say that. So this akela, I think, is a key here. कि अकेला है कौन? Like you're saying, कि there's this कौन देख रहा है? Yeah. Sri Aurobindo's poem, right? Who also again is on this only, na? कि who's there, who, yeah.
In Durga Saptashati also there are verse, some few lines regarding that. Who is protecting all those eggs? आंधी में जो रात में हम लोग सोचते हैं कि आंधी तूफान आता है तो ये कर लो ये कर ले कर वो जो घोंसले जो होते हैं उसमें कौन कौन बचाता है. नॉट ओनली दिस, ह्यूमन बीइंग ऑल्सो, जब तक हम लोग जागे रहते हैं तब तक तो चिंता करते रहते हैं, लेकिन भूल जाते हैं जब हम सो जाते हैं कि रात में सोते समय हमें कौन प्रोटेक्ट करता है. तो ये जागते समय भी जब इसको बार बार हम इस एहसास को करते हैं कि लाइक आई वुड लाइक टू शेयर माय एक्सपीरियंस रिसेंटली व्हेन आई फेल डाउन. Then earlier there was a kind of panic, but now it's just a matter of moment कि गिर गए, अरे माँ बचा लिया उन्होंने, अच्छा you are there, you say that I am there to protect you, so you saved me, thank you mother, gratitude, and then you go ahead. So if we feed this kind of thought in ourselves, then the sense our faith is strengthened and the sense of protection is also there.
There's a very beautiful story that still stayed with me. I think there was some katha was going on the TV. My mother was listening very long back related to that Vishnu story where Vishnu was telling Lakshmi that that I protect even the small ant that's crawling on the earth. And Lakshmi ji said, "Oh, you are the doer of the universe. You have such big job. How can you look after an ant which is so small?" And he said, and but he just smiled. And he said that how do you think that if there is small food, the ant will know where the food is and they'll come. Who has put that mechanism? And I thought that's very very right. I never saw who told them that there's this. They'll come from so far for that small piece of rice that I have left. And then Lakshmi ji in her heart did not believe. He said, "Let me take the test. Let me try to see it." So she took the ant and she took it in the hand and she put it in her shingar box. Said, "I'll keep it in the shingar box and close it for the day. And let me see how Lord looks after this ant." And she closed it and she kept it for the day, and she thought maybe now by this she'll die if I'll not open it now, she'll be dead. And when she opened it in the evening, that ant actually was so fat that she was shocked that who gave the food to the ant, she was in her shingar box. And then she saw that when she was closing the box, with the kumkum, there is a rice that we put, she had that on it, that fell during that, and ant ate it. And and suddenly she started crying that how could I doubt the Lord. But of course that was just a story that touched with me so much, and I also tried to test it on myself. I remember I was going for a examination. It's a very true story, happened just a couple of months back. I was making something, I was invigilating for an exam in a hurry, as usual, doing things in a hurry. And I was making a tea, and the boiling water fell on my feet. I did not put the slippers on, and it was really hot. So it was boiling water on this, and I knew it's going to burn. And when it burns, even a small burn creates so much problem to me that it's really bad, and especially if it's second or third degree burn. And I read somewhere that mother was telling that when you get hurt before an accident happens, and when you're about to get hurt, there is a small second in between. If you remember me, you'll be protected. So I think I was fortunate to catch that window, and immediately the prayer that came from my heart was that, Mother, you know, if I ask, if I'm not able to go this time, the exam had to be cancelled, and it will really impact so many students because nobody will find the cover because I have to just leave. So let me do my work sincerely. I didn't ask, oh, I should not get hurt. It's gonna pain. It will leave the mark, very bad mark on my this. I said that, and it was intuitive. And I remember I had to walk so much because there was like, so far. You have to put socks, you have to put shoes, you can't go in flip flops, and you have to walk from the examination house to where the exam was. It's a big walk, at least 1.5 kilometers. And I said, okay, it happened. I put the socks on, I put the shoes on. I don't know how I did it because it's impossible even to touch it. And that wound, it's the first time in history that wound did not pain me. I did not even feel there was a wound. And it was such a bad wound that the entire skin peeled off. When I came back in the night, I saw the entire skin peeled off. Even my mother was shocked on the video call. Oh my God, what happened? What happened? How did it happen? But miraculously, it did not even pain this much. Not, I did not feel it. And even after that, when I used to put Dettol or anything else, I used to say, Ma, please help me. It did not pain. I mean, it's like a miracle for me, like that. So just on that, I saw that, that like, how can we not trust her, and who else can be trusted in life? So, and we all have experiences just like Anjali ji shared. So yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Yes. Mm. Therefore, the universalized jiva first ascends into the silence. It becomes vast, tranquil, actionless. What action takes place, whether of body and these organs or any working whatever, the jiva sees but does not take part in, authorize, or in any way associate itself with it. Now, this I believe this happens when you ascend. This is not about, so there are two movements. One is going deep in the heart, the other one is ascend, ascending, going above the brain lodged consciousness. There, when we make that movement, when we are called to make that movement, there we feel that as if there is this vast silence, tranquility which we are connected to, that vastness above the mind. Actionless, tranquil, vast. Now, whatever action takes place, their action is taking place, but there is no active, authorization of it. कि हाँ बोला या ना बोला, no preference, no like, but things are happening. Now we can say things are taken care of, but you are not involved actively. So the jiva sees but does not take part in, authorize, or in any way associate itself with it. Now, we were talking of the association earlier, that every time my sense of self is attached to whatever I do, think, feel, even when I am criticizing myself कि मैं तो हमेशा ऐसे ही करती हूँ, even that is an association. That may be one step different than the earlier life that I lived, but even that is an association. So either to take blame or take praise is an association. तो यहाँ पे एक थोड़ी सी इम्पर्सनैलिटी है. एक ब्लैंडनेस कह सकते हैं, ब्लैंडनेस. स्पाइस थोड़ा कम हो जाएगा शायद. Just assuming for those of us who love spice. The jiva sees but does not take part in, authorize, or in any way associate itself with it. There is action, बट नो पर्सनल एक्टर। अब ये बड़े मजे की बात है, क्योंकि इसमें क्या है, इसमें परफेक्शन की तरफ मूवमेंट पॉसिबल है, क्योंकि हम बार बार दिल पे लेते रहते हैं, तो हम परफेक्शन भी नहीं, सही जगह एनर्जी भी नहीं डाल पाते। उसने मुझे ये कह दिया, वो हमेशा ये कहता है, कहती है, तो सारा जो दिमाग है वो वहीं पे चला जाता, सारी एनर्जी वहीं डायरेक्ट हो जाती है, बट आई एम नॉट एबल टू एक्चुअली मेक द रिक्वायर्ड करेक्शन। जो अगर उसने बोला कि कॉमा हटाना है, फुल स्टॉप लगाना है, तो उस पर मेरा ध्यान नहीं गया, मेरा ध्यान ये चला गया कि उसने बोला कैसे। सो देर इज एक्शन बट नो पर्सनल एक्टर, no bondage. Why are we bonded? We are bonded because we all want to be somebody. We all want, we are craving to be somebodies in the eyes of somebodies who are also wanting to be somebodies in the eyes of other somebodies. ये चेन चल रही है, तो अब उससे परे हो गए ना। देयर इज नो नीड टू बी समबडी, नो बॉन्डेज। सो दिस लीव्स अस ऑफ बॉन्डेज, क्योंकि अब कुछ चाहिए नहीं ना। देखो, बॉन्डेज तो वो है जिसको कुछ चाहिए हो। आप शादी करके भी बिना बॉन्डेज के रह सकते हैं, क्योंकि आपको नहीं चाहिए कुछ ना, उसने कुछ आपकी जिंदगी में ऐड कर दिया, ना उससे कुछ डिलीट होने वाला है। It's just because we give so much of importance to these little things that they become so overpowering, that we see, oh my god, ये मैं कैसे कर सकती हूँ, ये मैं कैसे कर सकती हूँ, so we let that sign that we do. What is a sign? Think about it. In front of a spiritual calling, true calling of your heart, what is a sign? What is a house? जो घर जा रहे आप ना, चले हमारे साथ। तो ऐसे उनको नहीं मिल जाता, the self is not won by the weaker, says the Upanishad. उसके लिए स्ट्रेंथ चाहिए होती है, स्टैंड लेना पड़ता है, घर जलाना पड़ता है। मतलब आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि बर्न योर हाउस, ऑफ कोर्स, एंड आई एम श्योर यू मीन, यू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट आई मीन। यहाँ पे कहीं ये वीडियो को ब्लॉक ही ना कर दें कि ये गलत सलाह हो रही है यहाँ पे। घर इज बाउंड्री, घर इज वेर एवर आई हैव कंफर्ट, माई कंफर्ट जोन्स, वेयर वी वर टॉकिंग ऑफ नॉट टेकिंग रिस्क, जहाँ मैं कंफर्टेबल। सो जो घर जा रहे आप ना, जो डिस्कम्फर्ट में आने के लिए तैयार है फॉर द राइट थिंग, वो चले हमारे साथ। राइट थिंग के लिए डिस्कम्फर्ट होगा, कंफर्ट जोन में रहते रहते हमारा कुछ नहीं हो सकता। दैट्स व्हाट वी कॉल तमस, इनर्शिया। सो नो बॉन्डेज। करना है, क्यों करना है? क्योंकि उचित है, उससे कुछ उम्मीद नहीं है कि इससे मेरे में कुछ एडिशन होगा, सब्सट्रैक्शन होगा, वो नहीं, इसलिए करना है क्योंकि उचित करना है। नो बॉन्डेज, नो रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी। नाउ दिस इज द ब्यूटी, वी थिंक सो, इमेजिन परमात्मा, नो रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, हम फुल ऑफ रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज। हाउ अमेजिंग इज दैट? दिस इज व्हाट वी कॉल डूअरशिप। And again, that we have to see, because this can be tweaked it in any which way by the reason, intellectual mind. So we have to see no responsibility in front of that true call. There is nothing that can stop me. But पहले वो right action, right call होनी हमारे सामने जरूरी है। Otherwise we can say, oh, I am no responsibility, घर नहीं साफ करना, जैसा है पड़ा रहे। क्यों अर्न करूं, मिल तो रहा है पापा से, मम्मी से। So we have to see, because reason can tweak it in any which way. There was this line in Savitri, I think it maybe next time we'll take it up in reason, inspirational life, we will take it up, which I think Taru had pointed at in our private discussion. Then I looked it up, and it was about reason, that it leaves the kernel and takes the husk. So there's a long, he talks about reason, how it operates. जैसे हम बात कर रहे थे कि साधु ऐसा चाहिए जैसा सूप सुभाए, सार सार को गही लहे, थोथा दे उड़ाए। और ये क्या कर रहा है रीजन? थोथा बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट, और सार को फेंक दिया, सार गया इधर उधर, कोई नजर में नहीं है। बट थोथे को हम इस तरीके से प्रेजेंट करते हैं, इन सच एलिटिस्ट फॉर्म, कि आप उसको मना भी नहीं कर पाते कि भाई ये तो आपको चाहिए ही होगा, नहीं ये तो आपकी लाइफ में सबसे जरूरी चीज है। तो ओनली थोथा नीड्स अ नाइस प्रेजेंटेशन, है ना, सार को प्रेजेंटेशन की क्या जरूरत है। और वही बिकता है, वो हम खरीदते हैं।
वही आजकल हो रहा है।
Yeah, so no bondage. I think this is a very key thing. Again, like all these things can be put on our walls, and whatever resonates with whoever. No personal actor, no bondage. This we can remember every time we feel a bondage, when there is a right action that needs to be taken and I'm hesitating to take that action. No bondage. Nothing in front of the true call. Mother 2 times married, and she knew what had to be done, and she was here in Pondicherry when the time was right. Sri Aurobindo, freedom struggle, have a wife somewhere, but he knows his call has to be attended. No bondage, no responsibility. मैं पति हूँ, मुझे ये करना है. And again, if we see the letters or exchange of letters between him and Mrinalini Devi ji, so even that conversation is so uplifting. You are trying to uplift a relationship rather than to downgrade it. उस बंदे को भी नहीं फंसा रहे और खुद भी नहीं फंस रहे. नहीं तो हम तो बंदे को भी फंसाते हैं और खुद भी फंसना ही चाहते हैं, बिकॉज प्यार होता है उस फंसने से. और फिर बाद में हम बोलते हैं हमारी फ्रीडम किसने कर्टेल कर दी. भाई खुद ही तो दी थी हमने. सो खुद दी थी वो ठीक है, लेकिन जब होश आता है तो खुद वापस ले लेनी चाहिए. जब दी थी तब होश नहीं था ना. तो ये नहीं कि अब एक उसको बाधा बना लिया, बॉन्डेज बना लिया, और अब जब सही कॉल सही स्टेप पता है तब भी नहीं हम ले पा रहे. सो वी हैव टू रियली सी, नो बॉन्डेज, नो रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी इन फ्रंट ऑफ व्हाट इज राइट, व्हाट हैज टू बी अटेंडेड. If personal action is needed, then the jiva has to keep or recover what has been called the form of the ego. So, for example, if we are working like a team and there are errors that are made, for example, I'm working and I'm making some errors. So, if I now say that, oh, there is nobody here, then the work will not get done. That if somebody is suggesting corrections and I'm not owning up to those corrections, then who will do the corrections? So then it calls again back the ego personality. So if personal action is needed, then the jiva has to keep or recover what has been called the form of the ego, a sort of a mental image of an I that is the knower, devotee, servant and instrument. क्योंकि गलती किससे हुई? मेरे से भी तो हुई. अब सुधारेगा कौन? मैं ही तो. और ये मैं कौन है? यही तो टेम्पररी पर्सनैलिटी. तो वो टाइम टू टाइम उसको यूज किया जाएगा, बट फॉर द उचित पर्पस, फॉर द राइट पर्पस. सो इट्स एन इमेज ओनली एंड नॉट अ रियलिटी. और अब हम फिर दिल पे नहीं लेते. फिर जो भी करेक्शंस हैं, जो भी इम्प्रोवाइजेशन है, फिर दिल पे लेने की वाली कौन सी बात है? बिकॉज वो आई जो है वो इमेज ही तो है, वो रियलिटी थोड़ी ना है. तो उस आई को जिसने भी कुछ कह दिया, आपने उसमें से सार सार लिया, उस पर काम किया और खत्म मामला. उस आई को फिर से भेज दिया, ले उड़ जा. kind of a cloud gone again into the sky. Then you call it again when required. So if even that is not there, still action can continue by the mere continued force of Prakriti. So even if this calling of the I is not there, the action can continue, he says, by the mere continued force of Prakriti. जो momentum की बात करते हैं, आपको पता है किस तरीके से चीजें करनी है, and that goes on. पता है patterns without any personal actor, without indeed there being a sense of an actor at all. for the self into which the jiva has cast its being, जिसके अंदर आपने अपने प्लंज कर दिया अपने आप को, you know, the self into which the jiva has cast its being. Cast is also related to how we, you know, like cast iron कहते हैं ना, we form it in shapes. Is the actionless, the fathomlessly still. ये जगह ढूंढनी है हमको जो एग्जिस्ट करती है. Yeah, so anything here? Anyone? Oh wow, where is this? Udasin. Udasin, the word used for.
Udasin.
Yeah, yeah. I like this word very much. Yeah, so the word for the spiritual indifference, that is to say, the unattached freedom of the soul touched by the supreme knowledge. And someone had shared with me that Udasin is like a, you know, like how we say Acharya or Shri or Shri Shri. You know, so Udasin is like when you touch that space of being above the things of duality, good and bad and evil in this. So when you are seated there, then it's called Udasin, like you are seated beyond that duality of things. Unattached freedom of the soul touched by the supreme knowledge. तो उससे पहले हम इंडिफरेंस नहीं हो सकते. आई थिंक दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट बिकॉज उससे पहले हमें वी मस्ट बी सेंसिटिव व्हाट थिंग टू चूज, विच इज राइट, विच इज नॉट राइट फॉर मी, व्हाट इज अपलिफ्टिंग, व्हाट इज नॉट अपलिफ्टिंग. क्योंकि वहां पे आपने इंडिफरेंस शुरू कर दिया तो बिल्कुल मामला गड़बड़ हो जाएगा. तो ये इंडिफरेंस तब आता है जब यू आर एस्टैब्लिश्ड इन द ट्रू नॉलेज ऑफ द सोल. When you are established in the soul consciousness, there you can see, you know, that nothing can be added on to me, nothing can be subtracted from me. So then an indifference can come, but not before that. Yeah, anything, anyone?
Just when you were talking about attending to the call, I was reminded of mother's example I was reading. I think it really touched me that time, where she, from her first marriage, and I think she was married to a very affluent diplomat, very rich, and she herself was from a very affluent family, and she had the child Andre. And how one night when she already had a lot of experiences, of course, but there was this call she talks about that she had, and just the next day she took her bag, left that big palace, and moved to a small apartment in France. L- not not even thinking about like how we think, how we think, oh my god, Andre ko bhi chhod diya. I mean, the small child, it was not small, it was maybe 14 or 15, or maybe 11, 12. And the thing that came to my mind, that like, what is her greatness to become the divine mother? She had to transcend the personal love that even motherhood holds us into. I'm not a mother myself, but I think that it is something that, everybody becomes very possessive about my child, and, love and motherhood is so much unconditionality. And I think even mother says that even motherhood, is not unconditional at all, how we relate with children, filled with possession, filled with ego. But here is her example, how just in a day, she just, on that call that you were saying, she just left the house and moved to a small apartment just because she had to do it. Of course, she used to keep meeting Andre here and there, but not thinking my child, or I have to continue, just because, Andre is there. Maybe when he grows up, I have to go. So I mean that kind of, even with Buddha as well, like how, like to just think that nothing is really important in front of that call that we have. So that mother's example really touched me. Also, we keep saying, oh, we, like there's this whole marrying rich, and your life is sorted if you marry somebody who's very rich. That also, like, mother's life is such beautiful example that, there is no fulfillment anywhere in this world, no matter how, whatever your spouse or child is, the true satisfaction and fulfillment is only in divine. So of course she talks about it when she came to ashram, but even her earlier life is just a reflection or a preparation. Even for her it was, I think, I see it maybe as a preparation for the life that she has to lead, because when she came to ashram she just wore, the cloth of tapasya, and you're just doing the divine work away from money and lures of material life. So yeah, just wanted to share that.
Yeah, anything more? Anyone? Yeah, would anyone want to maybe Taru, you can, because you suggested, read this poem.
Who, in the blue of the sky, in the green of the forest, whose is the hand that has painted the glow? When the winds were asleep in the womb of the ether, who was it roused them and bade them to blow? He is lost in the heart, in the cavern of nature. He is found in the brain, where he builds up the thought, in the pattern and bloom of the flowers he is woven, in the luminous net of the stars he is caught, in the strength of a man, in the beauty of woman, in the laugh of a boy, in the blush of a girl. The hand that sent Jupiter spinning through heaven spends all its cunning to fashion a girl. These are his works and his veils and his shadows. But where is he then? By what name is he known? Is he Brahma or Vishnu, a man or a woman, bodied or bodiless, twin or alone? We have love for a boy who's dark and resplendent. A woman is lord of us, naked and fierce. We have seen him, a muse, on the snow of the mountains. We have watched him at work in the heart of the spheres. We will tell the whole world of his ways and his cunning. He has rapture of torture and passion and pain. He delights in our sorrow and drives us to weeping, then lures with his joy and his beauty again. All music is only the sound of his laughter, all beauty the smile
of His passionate bliss. Our lives are His heartbeats, our rapture, the bridal of Radha and Krishna. Our love is their kiss. He is strengthened that is loud in the blare of the trumpets, and he rides in the car and he strikes in the spears. He slays without stint and is full of compassion. He wars for the world and its ultimate ear. In the sweep of the world, in the surge of the ages, ineffable, mighty, majestic, and pure, beyond the last pinnacle seized by the thinker, he is throned in his seats that forever endure. The master of man and his infinite lover, he is close to our hearts. Had we vision to see, we are blind with our pride and the pomp of our passions. We are bound in our thoughts where we hold ourselves free. It is He in the Son who is ageless and deathless, and into the midnight His shadow is thrown. When darkness was blind and engulfed within darkness, He was seated within it, immense and alone.
Thank you. There are many interesting keys here in the last few lines, not only last, earlier also. He's close to our hearts, had we vision to see. And what blocks the vision? We are blind with our pride and the pomp of our passions. We are bound in our thoughts where we hold ourselves free. He was seated within it, immense and alone. I think this aloneness also we have to really cultivate a friendship with. जब वो अलोन बैठे हैं और हमें हर टाइम कंपनी 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 ऑल द टाइम, so बात जमेगी नहीं. So not only not saying that we must not, of course, not any asceticism required, but we must begin to enjoy our aloneness.
This combination of immense and alone, I find it very awe-inspiring that usually I take alone to be small, to be, cut off, to be oh, I'm lonely, I'm alone, right? And of course, lonely and alone cannot be technically, factually equated, but immense and alone, like immensity in his aloneness. It's very reflective, it's very, like you can visualize it, right? Like how a sun is immense and alone, for example, right? And so am I.
So, any last thoughts before we end? Anyone?
Sorry, even this thing that how we talk about dawn, right? Like how there's darkness, 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 and then the light comes. And here it's saying that in the midnight, it's his shadow that's thrown, right? Like how are things being reflected even at night? Because of his light. So even though we might feel there's darkness and we just see shadow and no real light, so that shadow is also because of the light. And because I see a shadow, I know the sun is there, right? So it exists even though it feels it doesn't exist. Factually, logically, reasonably, there is no sun. And yet then how is the shadow?
Okay, so we'll end here for today. Taking last moment in silence to share and dedicate the minute.